Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. We have Pixie Hamilton in the house with us again today, and we are so excited to share with you our topic. So we're going to get right into it because we have so much we want to get out to you today. Our topic today is the power of unspoken words. And we are in a month of communication. And so there's a lot to be said in the spoken word. And we thought we would want to introduce some ideas about how to use the unspoken word to help you with your spoken word. So Pixie and I were having a conversation, and this is how we ended up with this idea for the podcast about writing unedited, unsent letters without the intention of necessarily sending them, and also without editing them as you write, as a part of your healing journey, getting clear and processing things that are difficult internally to deal with. So there's our introduction. And I want to welcome Laurel and Pixie. Here we are, ladies. So happy
Hi.
to have us here.
Hello, Laurel and Laurel.
Hello, Pixie. Hi, Laurel.
Pixie, we love having you come back and share your work with us because we've said this before about your presence, but you take so much time and so much thought about processing, both like in a way where you get a lot of information, you gather a lot of knowledge, and then you do your deep work around it. And so to have you here and share your voice with us is a gift, I think, to our listeners. Yeah. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Laurel.
Yeah. Yeah. So where should we begin, ladies?
Where to begin?
Where to begin? I know. So I know, when we talk about this unedited writing an unedited letter, I use this as an assignment for clients quite often because I did it and it worked really, really well for me. And part of it was allowing myself to say things that I wouldn't say because I tend to edit myself in real life to the max. So to actually take, a piece of paper and write things that I would never say out loud was huge for me. It really helped me open up to embrace exactly where I am without feeling badly about it or judging it.
Yeah. And I assign it a lot to clients as well. And I do it for a couple reasons. One, to be, raw and real in your words, where many of us don't dare to do that, but also to process the emotion of it. Sometimes it's easier for me, in my experience, to process the emotion of something that I want to say and get it all out there first. And then the other piece is just the energetic release of the movement of your, a pen in hand, pen to paper. That energetic release is a third benefit for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Pixie? How do you use this practice?
Well, I am, as Laurel knows, I'm I write all the time. And writing for me brings clarity. With relationships, where these kind of unsent letters deal with, the relationships are so complicated. Usually they go for, decades. There's a lot of specifics, that we get caught up in, and then there's a lot of emotion, and it's hard to sort it all out. And so I think, the first key step is just to unadulterated write anything and everything that comes to your mind. And that's usually a mix of, on May 19th, you did this and you did that, to I feel abandoned, I feel rejected, whatever. I mean, it usually ends up being a pretty convoluted flow of, just like you said, Laurel, raw thoughts. What happens, I think too, if you're really if you do it very freely and courageously, what ends up happening is that you go back to that, and the key thing that's bothering you, usually at a deeper level than you want to admit, surfaces, and you can get through all the specificity that you would probably say to somebody before you actually thought through it. I just think it's a way to get clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that too. I feel like, for me, that if you do it in that unedited way, and this is a big caveat because part of it is if you try to edit it or write it as if you're going to send it or say it to the person, what happens is it oftentimes, whether you're conscious of it or not, you begin to edit your thinking, and your speech in it. And so the goal here is to release yourself from that. It's going to go to the person. This is what you would say if you could just say anything and everything and get the whole thing out and not have to worry about any response or any consequence to doing it, because that's how you release yourself from holding in the things that need to get out, right? Where they go is unimportant. The getting it out is the thing that brings you to clarity, right?
Yeah, you really do bring up a good point, and that is that if you're going to the person that you're having an issue with or writing through, you have an expected outcome in your head, and you're going to keep trying to force that expected or desired outcome, instead of letting things flow and letting the right or outcome kind of come organically. I think a key point for me in this letter writing is don't go to the person who created the harm, and there's a lot of levels to that, for validation, affirmation, comfort. Maybe later, when there's an understanding that's reached, but we all try to go and be understood, and make them say, I understand. More than likely, you're going to probably continue to be misunderstood for a while until you kind of work through understanding it yourself.
Yeah.
So I always say, I don't have clients because I'm not a life coach, but to my friends who have issues, who come to me, I say, I want you to just write a letter. And then I want you, when you're ready, to call me up or come over to my house. And I want you to read it to me. And a trusted friend who's going to sit there and listen and not judge, and maybe affirm, maybe not, maybe not say anything. But somebody that loves the person and wants to be there and has their back. That's the person that you first need affirmation and to be understood from, not the one that you're having
the difficulty with. That's right. That's right. Because oftentimes when that other person is triggered and you're triggered on whatever the subject is and the topic is, and so nothing productive happens. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Laurel.
And Pixie, you said something earlier about, getting things out of your head, right? And the detail of, on May 17th, 1945, this happened, right? I've been accused from those who love me to have the brain of a squirrel because I bury those nuts and bring them back out when I need them, right? So I love that piece of releasing, like having, the release of carrying all those, the infractions, the details that you are maybe angry about or hurt by, right? Like, you store those up, those memories, and in storing those detailed memories, you store the emotion or you carry the emotion with it. So, and the energy of that, infraction, I'll call it, right?
Yeah.
When we are wronged, we remember when we're wronged. So this release is beautiful. And the thought of reading, the written word to someone else who isn't triggered by it, who isn't the accused, right? I mean, somehow that even strengthens your own voice to be able to release what you're carrying. So that's a great practice.
It is. I want to just give a little shout out to reevaluation counseling, because really what we're referring to, or the process that we're talking about, and the way that Pixie, you describe that, right, with a trusted other, is really what reevaluation counseling is. So in reevaluation counseling, you're with a peer, and you are given the space and the time. And when you do this in a classic way, what you do is that you actually use a timer. So one person might go first, they talk for half an hour and, go through their process. And then the other person would get a half an hour and they go through their process. And you're just really there to witness and receive and give good, loving attention to the person while they're ridding themselves or unloading, what it is that's on their heart and on their mind. And it's a safe space to do it in. Oftentimes we don't do anything other than just encourage them to continue and acknowledge that we hear what you're saying, right? And it gives the person enough space to remove and move enough emotion so that hopefully on the other side of the experience, they can think more clearly about it. Right.
Well, a lot of times too, I think, at least this has happened with my experiences, when a friend does read, the unedited letter, there are parts where they get emotional.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they don't even know that that's what it is that they touched on. And so the trusted listener can say, wow, tell me more about that paragraph, or read it again, and let them keep going into the emotion. Because that's where the healing is.
Exactly.
It's in the heart. It's not being affirmed that, oh, I can't believe they did that. Are you kidding me? Wow, that's amazing. They did that in May, and then in June they did that. No,
exactly. That's not the helping we're talking about at all.
Right.
That is not going to help in this process.
But this happened recently with a friend, and she was kind of taken back where she got emotional and couldn't go on. And if I had been in person with her, I would have handed her a Kleenex. But we both noted, okay, tell me more about that. And so that's an important part of this whole process. You don't even know.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, when you have the chance to go through this process and then reevaluate where you are, you usually are in a different place. And that kind of spoke into, I felt like Laurel, both of you kind of like touched on that almost of, writing something and then coming back to it later and being able to hear it from a different place because you're in a different place after processing it. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, I've done that many times where I know in the instance, right, in the moment, the emotion is maybe creating some confusion. I hate to say my emotions confuse me, but I may not have clarity because I may be too emotional about a situation. And it could even be a trigger. It could be it could be a situation that reminds me emotionally of something that happened decades ago. Yet I'm thinking it's the present day situation and not the thread to a prior injury, right? And so it allows me to be able to process the emotion and then come back to it later. I mean, I have a recent example as well. A friend of mine that I've known for 40 years called me recently, and she came across a letter she had written to her husband, but she was never really ready to give it to him. She wrote in a way so that she could prepare for what she wanted to speak to him. But she wasn't ready, it's I mean, 5-6 years later, she wasn't really ready to destroy this written letter she had written to him, but she didn't want to keep it in a place where she was reminded of it. She said just finding it brought her back to the moment of the emotion of what they were going through at the time.
Mm.
And I told her, seal that envelope and just send it to me. I'll hold it for you to decide until you decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
You might want to give it to him one day. You might want to burn it. Who knows what you're going to want to do with it? And I do think that's interesting because often when I write, I tend to write and release, right? And I might burn something and release it. But there is some benefit of holding on to it, I think, because when you go back and read it again, I mean, you're a different person. You interpret the situation differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of everything regarding my letters. There is a kind of a well accepted way to or advice to write a letter. Usually there are letters of releasing resentment and anger, but then usually have a tad of forgiveness. You're writing and you're getting to forgiveness for that person. And I did that with my mother, and that was a letter that I did burn. And I think I've told both of you, when the ashes settled, they settled in the form of a cross, which to me was a sign that, yes, I had finally reached a sacred level of forgiveness. And that was a really beautiful experience in burning that letter. I have also kept my letters, and I thank God that I did. Because like Laurel said, you read them later, a year later, or 5 years later, you're a different person. And you get not only a pretty strong affirmation of your growth, but also a new, even more clarity from that, 5-year-old letter in who you are that day. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can really bring yourself into a deeper state of forgiveness. Because I always feel like too, we've done a couple shows on forgiveness, and I always want to come back and remind people, the process of forgiveness, especially when it was a really big infraction or a big trauma that you went through, it often takes many cycles, much a very big spiral, shall we say, before you really get to a point where you feel like you have some sort of peace around, whatever happened. And so to be able to go back, and kind of revisit a letter is a way to determine, where am I with this? Is it still pinging the same way? Is it, am I better with it? Do I have more work to do here? That kind of thing. Yeah. It's really powerful. And then, sometimes we actually do, recraft a letter and actually send it. I mean, there are times when the unedited letter becomes an edited letter that feels really good, that it's time to actually, post in the mail and let somebody receive and have your words, right? And to me, a sent letter is like a spoken word. Do you guys think of it like that too? Yeah.
Yes.
I do too. Yeah.
So it reminds me of holding on to letters that we've written. One of my first experiences with a group coaching, I guess it was a group coaching opportunity with another life coach that I know. It was years ago. It was 2016. And in that, we were writing letters to our future self, right? In the present, I am present tense, first person present tense, and writing that letter. I came across it last year in the notebook that I had from that 5-week workshop. And what was just remarkable is almost everything I had written that I am, which wasn't really, it was my future self I was writing to or about, in the course of 6 years had really come to fruition. And so when I think we've been talking a lot about processing emotion and hurt, anger, resentment, forgiveness, but even processing our hopes and dreams. I think about the processing of anything that I'm not daring to speak out loud at the time. Like, how can I write it and release that?
So every New Year's Eve, I write a letter to myself
Mhm.
about, oh, what a year it has been. Not the year that just passed, the year as if I'm 365 days in the future.
Ooh.
That is so
And
juicy.
and
Yeah.
and being grateful for this and that and seeing this and that and doing this and that, and oh, what a year it's been. And it's a year projected forward. and
Wow.
then and then I read it the following um New Year's Eve.
Wow. Wow. That's very cool practice.
Mhm.
That's
So,
a great practice.
yeah, we usually do a show at the end of year, talking about this kind of stuff, these kinds of practices, right? How to move into the next year with a new vision, or how to hold that vision, right? And that Pixie is a beautiful practice. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I do beforehand is write a letter of the year that just passed with one
Mm,
more day, of what no longer is going to serve me. So
yeah.
I kind of give that up first and
Yeah.
release it and kind of clean the slate, and then
Perfect.
say, oh, what a year it has been. And it is kind of fun to get in the mail because, like Laurel, you do see it manifest. And I mean, that's how the universe works. Now, does it work on a year cycle? I don't know. Does it work on a 6 year cycle? I don't know. I think it can work every split second if you believe in manifestation.
It's
um,
a good test of your belief
I
system.
know,
yeah.
right? Oh,
Yeah.
we
But
could do.
I do want to, I probably should mention the most powerful letter I've ever written. And I did keep it. Uh, thank God it didn't get burned, because rereading it is as powerful as when I wrote it. And it was a letter from Little Pixie. Um, the little pixie that was born into this world that is pure and forgiving and knows nothing but unconditional love and wants excitement and awe and curiosity and just all the yummy things about life. So little Pixie, the child within, the pure child within, wrote a letter to me, the
Mm.
one that just lived, 60 years on Earth, and it was filled with, hey, I'm not trying to be mean, but you did this and that hurt me, um, and you behaved this way, and I felt kind of abandoned and lonely when you did that, and so on. It was a powerful, deep, and somewhat detailed in places letter. And then at the end, little Pixie said, but that's okay because it's all behind us. We're one now.
Mm.
The two shall be one. And, let's do this together, with the purest of heart that we were meant to live. And so at the end of this letter, it was very hopeful. It's a powerful experience.
Wow.
It's, it
Wow.
touches, it touches on step 4, if anybody knows the
12 step.
12 steps. Step 4 is when you do an inventory. It's where you kind of look back and you kind of accept and own the things in your life. You see threads, in relationships and behaviors and coping strategies, and in a way, it was kind of a soft, loving way of getting out this, what they call in 12-step programs, an inventory, personal inventory. Seeing the forgiveness of it, even though it's shining on the paper, and starting again. So
Wow.
I did keep it.
Yeah, I love that. Pixie, as you were describing like little Pixie, right? And the pureness and the excitement of the life ahead and kind of that thing. It for me, as I listened, it was like it almost like pinged in my heart, like this awareness of not really being in touch with that part of me when I was little, which is really interesting, to think about. And as you know, just like here we are on the show, you know, we always talk about how our show is unscripted and conversational. And so we're in the moment with it. And, you know, like here we are sitting together and having a conversation and like this realization, right? Like this is how this kind of talk, right, helps us process and move ourselves forward and have self-awareness, right? Because in that moment I was thinking, wow, if I wrote that letter, what would that sound like for me? Could I get in touch with that part of me? Like, would I need to do a meditation first, or would the writing itself lead me to that part of myself that I maybe hadn't been in touch with when I was little, you know? So it's just a curious, you know, that I love this inner work. I love this beautiful work because you never know what's going to come up when you're in conversation with people in this process, you know? It's really
I would add, it's not just the little pixie that I ignored when I was little. It's the little pixie that I ignored basically for 60 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, it's the purest form of the human soul that came in and wanted to thrive. And yet somehow that part of me, I didn't allow to be the fullest potential. So to be able to do that now and learn how to bring that full potential out, I mean, it really did kind of come, the potentials in black and white in that letter.
Yeah.
And that's a concrete way. It turned out to be a very concrete way to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
were there
beautiful.
any, I mean, that sounds like such a powerful practice. And Laurel, I was thinking the same thing. Like, what would that letter look like if I was writing right to my younger self and or my inner child, my child, not, I mean, me as a child, right? But any practices that led you to that? Like, how did you come to that place where you were able to do that?
Yeah.
Well, that's deep.
Okay, never mind, another podcast.
No,
we're deep in your work. We're ready for you, Pix.
No, I think, you know, you keep doing the work and you go deep, and you go deeper, and then you go deeper, and then you go deeper until the rawest of your fears is no longer hidden. And so when you go that deep and touch base with that rawness, your pure self, your true authentic self has room to finally show itself.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's what happened. It was little Pixie, that pure, beautiful human soul that we all come in as, right? And we are pure, seeking truth. It's that finally shines. But it really does come when you hit bottom and grapple with the deepest fears. And, you know, I'm a huge 12-step program, not for alcohol necessarily, but same thing for codependency. I used to tell people, that's so stupid. You don't have to hit bottom, you know, whatever. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, me personally, I had to hit bottom. It was just my path. I had to hit bottom. I had to kind of look on my knees up and say, okay, you can live or you can die. And that's just your choice right now. And you can keep playing at life and pretending, or you can be real and honor your sacred self and honor that little pixie that came into this earth. That's your choice. And I remember on the ground, on my knees, having that choice. I just happened to be one that got up and said, you know, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm a fighter. I'm gonna keep doing it. So you asked what brought that letter. It was hitting bottom.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. So we expected that we were going to go on to another topic on the show, but I like Pixie, if you would, we'll just hold on that topic and we'll come back and do another show on that, because I feel like we're going to go too long today. And also I want to I want to give maybe a couple more examples too, or invite our listeners, to think really outside the box of this unedited writing, and the unspoken word, right? You can hear from even our conversation where it went today, right? How deeply this experience can go for you, right? And so I think number one, we hit a little bit on having good support around it. Sometimes our unedited words can bring up emotions and memories that can be powerful, and so you want to have a place where you can go to process that and have the right kind of support with that. And then, I think the other important thing that we kind of said, we circled around, but we didn't say directly, is there's no right way to do this. There are many ways to do this. And the goal really is to give yourself the space and the permission to explore what's really happening on the inside, and beginning, to allow yourself to release maybe some of what you've carried that's been really heavy baggage. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things I want to recommend is that to the awareness of how you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
If we think about an inventory of how do you feel before you're writing? How do you feel after you're writing, right? How do you feel maybe when you're reading it to someone else, or after you read your letter to someone else? Or how do you feel if you decide to burn it and release it to the universe? Like, notice your feelings, because it is a practice that not only is there not only one way to do it, one right way, there is no one right way, but there may not be only one way that it serves you, right? So today it might be that I'm writing and releasing, but a month from now, I may feel that I need to write and then read. So just tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Pixie, anything else from you before we wrap up? I feel like
No, I don't think so. I just think that it doesn't matter what you end up doing with it. It doesn't matter how you do it. We didn't even mention things like some people like to do it on the computer, some like to do it in handwritten in kind of a slow way, whatever works. I think that staying open before you do it, kind of opening up your mind and heart, and that would probably be the only thread in whatever way you choose, is to do it with the intention of an open heart. Sometimes this writing is tough, and clarity doesn't come free.
Yeah.
And so, open up your heart, open up your mind before you start, and know that whatever comes out is the perfect thing to come out for you at that time. You're ready for whatever's going to come up at that time, and go with it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is, so a lot of times it's not just one letter.
That's right.
That's right.
I would say that the tougher situations, the tougher relationships, the long-term kind of decadal ones, it's going to be a process of the unspoken word.
Yeah.
It's a lot of letters.
Yeah. So here's what I want to say, as we wrap up too, I want to come circle back to why this is, so valuable, right? Is for most of us, when we're at the point where we're deepening, the inner work, the beautiful work, and going deeper and deeper with it, we are wanting to align spiritually and feel like we're living, in a kind of a elevated spiritual life experience. And for those of us that are doing that, we want to be really true to our word. We want to feel like we are in complete alignment with our spoken word. And the value of the unspoken word is to give you opportunity to manage the thoughts and the feelings and the stream of energy within you in a way where you can process and you can look and you can see and you can contemplate. And then when you get to the part where you're actually speaking your word, you feel like you can feel really good about it, so that you don't walk away feeling like, oh, I wish I hadn't said it that way. I wish I had said this. I wish I had done that. It's an opportunity to do it well, to speak well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerfully. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be back for our second topic. I'm just going to give you a little teaser on that one. So, one of the other ways that we can use the unspoken word is to use it to help us rewrite the narrative, to rewrite the script the way that we want to deliver it next time. I kind of went there a little bit with my value of the unspoken word. So we'll come back and we'll hopefully get Pixie to come back on here and talk about that one. And we'll be back for more. Beautiful work, beautiful life. Thanks, Laurel. Thanks, Pixie.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.